Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Ashtotar Shri Srimad Abhaya Charanavinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Ashtotar Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Goswami Thakur Shri Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jagannath Puri Ki Ganga Mai Ki Jamuna Mai Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Tulasi Devi Ki Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda Ki Taking over the world with Srila Prabhupada's transcendental book distribution Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Vashtaya Bhutaya Srimati Bhakti Vikas Swami Namane. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 5, Text number 31. Taijasat tu vikurvanat indriyani dashabhavan jnanam shaktihi kriyam shaktir buddhihi pranash cha taijasau Shrotranam, Shrotam, I'm messing that up. Shrotram, Tvag, Granam, Drig, Jihva, Vag, Dor, Midhrangri, Payavaham, Tejasatu Vikurvanad, Indriyani Dashabhavan, Jnana Shakti Kriya Shaktir Buddhif Pranasya Tejasau Shrotram Tvagrana Drigjihva. Let's try that again. Shrotram Tvagrana Drigjiva Vagdor Midhrangri Payavaha Tejasatu Vikurvanat Indriyani Dashabhavan Jnana Shakti Kriya Shaktir Buddhif Pranasya Tejasau Shrotram Tvagrana Drigjihva Vagdor Midhrangri Payavaha Tejasatu Vikurvanat Indriyani Dashabhavan Jnana Shakti Kriya Shaktir Buddhif Pranasya Tejasau Shrotram Tvagrana Drigjihva Vagdor Midhrangri Payavaha. Please repeat. Tejasatu Vikurvanat Jnani Dashabhavan Jnana Shakti Kriya Shakti Shakti Kriya Shakti Jnana Chaitasa Shrotram Tvagrana Drigjihva Tejasatu Vikurvanad Indriyani dasha bhavan. Jnana Shakti Kriya Shaktir. Buddhi Pranasya Tejaso. Shrotram Tvaghrana Jiva. Vagdo Medhangri Payavaha. Tejasatu Vikurvanad. Indriyani Dasha Bhavan. Jnana Shakti Kriya Shaktir. Buddhi Pranasya Tejaso. Shrotam Tvaghrana Drigjihva. Vador Medhangri Payavaha. Taijasatu Vikurvanat. Indriyani Dashabhavan. Jnana Shakti Kriya Shaktir. Vipranasta Chaidaso. Shrotam Tvaghrana Drigjihva. Agdormedangri Payavaha. Mataji's please. Taijasatu Vikurvanad. Indriyani Dashabhavan. Jnana Shakti Kriya Shaktir. Pranasta Chaidaso. Jnana Drigjihva. Angri Payavaha. Tajasattu Vikurvana. Indriyani Dashabhavan. Jnana Shakti Kriya Shaktir. Buddhi Pranasya Tejaso. Shrotam Tvaghrana Drigjihva. Medhangri Payavaha. Tejasat, by the passionate egoism. Tum, but. Vikurvanat, transformation of. Indriyani, the senses. Dasha, 10. Abhavan, generated. Jnana Shaktihi, the 5 senses for acquiring knowledge. Kriya Shaktihi, the 5 senses for performing activities. Buddhihi, intelligence. Pranaha, the life energy. Cha, also. Taijaso, all products of the mode of passion. Shrotram, the sense for hearing. Tvak, the sense for touching. Granam, the sense of smelling. Drik, the sense for seeing. Jihvaha, the sense of for tasting. Vak, the sense for speaking. Doho, the sense for handling. Medhra, the genitals. Angri, the legs. Payavaha, the sense for evacuating. Translation purport by Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. By further transformation of the mode of passion, the sense organs like the ear, skin, nose, tongue, mouth, hands, genitals, legs, and outlet for evacuating together with intelligence and the life energy are all generated. Purport. The living condition in material existence depends more or less on one's intelligence and powerful life energy. Intelligence to counteract the hard struggle for existence is assisted by the senses for acquiring knowledge. And the life energy is maintained by the manipulation of the active organs. like the hands and legs. But on the whole, the struggle for existence is an exertion of the mode of passion. Therefore, all the sense organs, along with the intelligence and the life energy prana, are different products and byproducts of the second mode of nature called passion. This mode of nature, however, is the product of the air element as described before. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapatam Yena Bhudale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mahyam Dati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shritaf Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sujivam Sadvaitam Savathutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagan Lalita Shri Vishakan Vatamsha He Krishna Karana Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swaminati Namine Nijaguru Hari Vanya Krishna Chitto Vichinto Parihita Pitrige Hadyanda Sangsara Kupaha Prabhu Bhajana Sukabdo Majjayan Somsa Vishwo Bhuvi Jayati Vikaso Bhakti Purvo Yatindraha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminati Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshatarine Vagisha Yasya Vadane Lakshmi Yasya Shivakshisi Yasyaste Hridaye Samvitam Nrsimha Maham Bhaje Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukham Karti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishvaram. This section of the Bhagavatam is speaking about how the senses, where they come from, how the mode of passion acts exactly. And Prabhupada ends this purport by saying that the passion is actually, however, is a product of the air element as described before, the mode of passion. So we can see this, that all these different senses, like the sense organs, like the ear, skin, nose, eyes, tongue, mouth, hands, genitals, legs, and outlet for evacuating, together with intelligence and the life energy, are all generated. Prabhupada opens up the purport by speaking about how that the living condition in the material existence depends more or less on one's intelligence and powerful life energy. So this is a very important point, and we can actually say this, that a person may think if you have more strength, then you could overcome an enemy. A person could think if you have more of this or more of that, you could overcome an enemy. But we can actually see that the human being in this world does not have as much strength as an elephant. He's not as fast as a cheetah. He cannot jump from one tree to another like a monkey. He cannot slither his way away with a snake. He cannot, enter different things and break them up like bugs. But because he has more intelligence in all these living entities, he's able to subjugate and control them. We can see this, that the human being is able to control an elephant who is so much stronger than him. How? By the use of intelligence. And a human being is able to capture cheetahs. Cheetahs run so fast. He's able to capture them. Why? Because he has more intelligence. So same way, a human being can even go and capture a whale. A whale is somewhere, in the ocean, somewhere swimming. And the human being is not even a product, not even a living entity who survives on water. He survives on the land. But because he has this intelligence, he's actually able to even go and capture whales. He's able to do all these things. Why? Because one's existence depends a lot upon one's intelligence. The more intelligent one is, the more one can learn to manipulate material nature, either for their own sense gratification or for the sense gratification of Krishna. And that is what helps one actually perform all the different activities. Their ability to actually function and the ability to discriminate. Intelligence means what? By intelligence, one needs to understand that there is a sense of discrimination. By using intelligence, a person can discriminate what should be done and what should not be done for the end goal. Whatever that end goal may be, that's a whole other subject matter. But even the way people function in this world, it depends upon how they're able to discriminate between what is the right thing to do and what is the wrong thing to do. And that is the intelligence potency. That's the intelligence potency. How did, one of Prabhupada's godbrother, he saw that all these great yogis, they were already, they're performing all these siddhis, are becoming smaller than the smallest and the bigger than the biggest. They're able to fly from one place to another. They're able to create planets. They're able to do all these things. But he thought all these siddhis are actually useless. Why are they useless? Because the material science is already doing that. May not be to the extent that that the yogis and all of them may do, but the material science is already doing it. We are able to go through things by drilling a hole, right? We were in New York and we were going through a tunnel, and then this tunnel is underwater, right? Is it the Holland Tunnel or one of the tunnels? Yeah, Holland Tunnel is underwater, and I was telling Prabhuji, we're actually underwater. We're actually underwater. We're traveling through this. We're underwater. But the human intelligence is so developed. It's so intelligent. But even within water, we're able to go. We're able to fly. We're able to fly from one place to another. We're able to create so many things out of thin air. We're able to, not thin air exactly, but we're able to create so many things if you give us a space of land or whatever. We're able to create so many things. We're able to do all these things. Why? Because of the intelligence factor. So this devotee, his name is Sadananda Prabhu, if I'm getting his name right, the German godbrother of Srila Prabhupada, Sadananda, right? Yes, Sadananda Prabhu. So he actually realized that all these so-called all these yogic powers are already achieved by material science. Therefore, I want to go for the higher thing, which material science cannot really achieve, and that's love for God. But putting that aside, we can see that this is such an important statement. The living condition in the material existence depends more or less on one's intelligence and powerful life energy. Of course, without life, all these things are completely useless. That one realizes that life comes from life. When the minute one understands and realizes that, then they will actually be able to, exert their life energy to perform different things. But even if they don't realize it, still they can make so many different things. They can make so many different things that we can see that technology is working so much. All these things are happening so well. In one sense, they're able to perform activities which 100 years ago would have actually seemed impossible. For us, it seems impossible 100 years ago that something like a phone would exist. Right? 100 years ago, what is that? We're in 2023. So what would that be? 1923, right? 1923. Would we imagine that such a thing would exist, that you can just you're on one part of the planet and you go and someone is all the way on the other part of the planet, and just by touching this element, this thing, you can actually call them up and see them face to face. It doesn't seem like it's actually possible. And it's, wow, this is so amazing. It's actually possible. Before, in Rome, they were very proud. Yes, we have a chariot that can go from one part of Rome to another part of Rome in 4 weeks. And they thought that's such a fantastic technology. How wide is Rome? How big is Rome? Anyone know? Approximately? Is it bigger than Georgia? Huh? Roman Empire, I see. Okay, but still, however big their empire may be, 4 weeks to go from one place to another, now that seems like hard. Our sedan is much, like Toyota, what's it? Sienna, that's what we have? What's it? The sedan, what is it? Avalon, Toyota Avalon. It's much more advanced than that chariot, that they had. Why? Because they're simply focusing on this, on the subtle level on the gross level of technology, working on the gross level of technology. They're able to see all these things. And the more they manipulate all these things, they see how much advancement they're making. But the more intelligence one has, the more one can manipulate the material nature. And we can see this, that in previous times, their intelligence was primarily in the mode of goodness. And because their intelligence was in the mode of goodness, they were able to have chariots and all these things which travel much faster than all your jet planes. They're able to do this. Krishna went, what to speak of, traveling from one place to another on this globe. Krishna was able to go, from Dwarka, not Dwarka, in the Indraprastha, right? From Indraprastha all the way to beyond the end of this material world, all the way to see Mahavishnu, to go and get back the sons of his, of this Brahmana. Krishna was able to do it. He went on horses. Narada Muni is able to do so many things, which the technology these days cannot even function. And what to speak of Lord Vishnu? Lord Vishnu is in the mode of pure goodness. He's able to create things like flies and all these things where they fly like this and they land upside down like that. Prabhupada said, can you make a plane like that? Can you make a plane like a fly? Can you do your aerodynamics to figure out how exactly these things are happening? No. You can't do. Why? Because of superior intelligence. Because of Lord Vishnu's superior intelligence, he's able to make, his technology is so amazing. Think of how amazing this technology is. Lord Vishnu gave us a body that if you scratch it, after some time it automatically heals itself. Can we come up with such a technology? No. It's a higher grade of technology. Can we come up with technology like how Lord Vishnu's technology works? That there's a small seed encapsulated in a big banyan tree, and within that small seed is another banyan tree which has millions of such seeds. Can we come up with such a technology? No, we cannot. But Lord Vishnu's intelligence is so much greater. His life energy is so much greater. Therefore, he can come up with all these other things. Achintya is inconceivably greater than our limited perspective. And because it's inconceivably greater than our limited perspective, we are actually able to understand that, wow, Lord Vishnu is so great. And by worshipping Lord Vishnu, then we can actually understand this. That's why one of Lord Vishnu's name in the Vishnu Sahasranama is Akhandadhi, which means a person who has unlimited intelligence. Unlimited intelligence. We can think, oh, yes, we're going to go work our way and we're going to outdo God. Somehow we're going to outdo God. Like, for example, in Life Comes From Life, there's this conversation with Dr. Kuvur, and he's saying, he was an atheist and he's talking to Mahotsaha Prabhu. And he's like, we actually, won Nobel Awards. Do you know about our Nobel Awards? And then he's like, no, it doesn't matter, but what is your actual practical activity that you did? We found around 10 elements in matter which even God didn't know. And Mahotsaha Prabhu, like, you found 10 elements which even God didn't know? He's like, yes. But I thought you were an atheist. I don't think he said that, but you're an atheist. How do you even know that God made this? But yeah, 10 elements even not known to God before. And then he was like, wow, that's really amazing. And yes, and we're putting it into the egg. So he said, okay, from your egg, can a chicken come? Can a chicken come out of your egg? He said, we're still working on it. So, the chicken is more useful than you are, And like this, Mahotsaha Prabhu was constantly going at this Dr. Kuvur. And, this came to Srila Prabhupada back in 1977. A very dynamic report arrived from Sri Lanka because Mahotsaha Prabhu was in Sri Lanka. And Prabhupada read this report. And at every sentence that this article that was in the newspaper, every sentence, Prabhupada was so fiery and so heavily going at Dr. Kuvur. It was really funny. And then he was so pleased that his disciple made the exact same arguments that Srila Prabhupada made. I said, this is very amazing. And it was published in the previous Life Comes From Life, but now they're not published. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. But Prabhupada was so happy. Prabhupada was so happy by how Mahotsaha Prabhu had smashed Dr. Kuvur. Why? Because of this. Because Akhandadhi, Krishna is present within the heart of the living entity. And even from a material perspective, the intelligence is right next to the soul. Can anyone think of a verse in the Bhagavad Gita which says that the intelligence is right next to the soul? That's right. Indriyani paranyahur indriyebhya paramanaha manasastu parabhuddher yo buddhes paratastu saha. The indriyani paranyahur, the senses that we see, the jnanendriya and the karmendriyas that we see, are actually superior to dull matter. Dull matter is there. The senses are superior to dull matter. But then higher than the senses, indriyani paranyahur indriyebhya paramanaha, the mind is an even more, is greater than the senses. And then the intelligence is greater than the mind, and the saha, soul, is greater than the intelligence. So, we understand this point that the intelligence is right next to the soul. And when a person performs devotional service, by that performance of devotional service, all the knowledge which is actually needed for a person to perform their devotional service is actually there. Krishna says this in the Bhagavad Gita. Tesham sarata yuktanam pajatam priti purvakam datami buddhi yogam tam yena mama payanti te. That Krishna says that Tesham Sadata Yuktanam, that Krishna gives this intelligence to the living entity. The Dhami Buddhi Yogam Tam. The minute a living entity wants to perform sincere devotional service. Right? This is Bhagavad Gita chapter 10, text number 10. And Prabhupada in this purport, he gives a really fantastic purport where Prabhupada says, To those who are devoted, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. In this word, yeah, this is very, very applicable to the purport that we're reading over here. Prabhupada is saying this. In this verse, the word buddhi yogam is very significant. We may remember that in the second chapter, the Lord instructing Arjuna said that he had spoken to him of many things and that he would instruct him in the way of buddhi yoga. Now, buddhi yoga is explained. Buddhi yoga itself is action in Krishna consciousness. That is the highest intelligence. Buddhi means intelligence, and yoga means mystic activities or mystic elevation. When one tries to go back home, back to Godhead, and takes fully to Krishna consciousness in devotional service, his action is called buddhi yoga. In other words, buddhi yoga is a process by which one gets out of the entanglement of this material world. The ultimate goal of progress is Krishna. People do not know this, therefore, the association of devotees and the bona fide spiritual master are important. This is a really important point to note. Prabhupada is saying right here that people do not know this, therefore, the association of devotees and a bona fide spiritual master is important. Why is Prabhupada saying this? Because by the association of devotees and a bona fide spiritual master, one's transcendental intelligence is awakened. One's transcendental intelligence awakened much beyond this mundane intelligence. A person may be completely dull on may be completely dull on the material platform. They may be completely dull. I remember when I went to visit ISKCON Tirupati way back in 2019 or something. There was one devotee. He was over there, and he was like speaking fluent English, and he was like distributing Prabhupada's books, and I thought, this is freaking amazing. This Prabhuji's English is so good. And then later on, one of the other devotees who were there told me that actually this person used to be like a small boy who would help the truck driver. His father or someone was a truck driver. Actually, he was an orphan, and he would help a truck driver. And he didn't speak a lick of English. He did not know any English. He did not know how to like communicate. He was basically speaking materially useless. He was a materially useless person. But somehow he had come in touch with the devotees, and then all of a sudden, in a matter of like 1 or 2 years, he became so learned in by reading Prabhupada's books. Just by reading Prabhupada's books, he was able to learn the English language, and he's preaching in the English language and distributing books in the English language. How is that possible? Akhandati, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, gives that intelligence to the living entity. You know, how else will a person get intelligence? A person gets intelligence by the association of devotees. And we see this. That's where it says, Yasya devi para bhaktir yata devi tata guru tasya te katita hyartha prakashante mahatmanaha. That for a person who has unflinching faith in Guru and Krishna, all the imports of Shastra is automatically revealed to that person. It's a very easy, simple point to understand, but hard to execute. If we have that faith, that knowledge will come. If we have that faith, that intelligence will come. If we have that faith, Krishna will open up doors in order for us to perform the activity that we want to perform. But without faith, it's completely useless. And this actually comes from the transcendental mode of passion. There is such a thing. We can read this. I mentioned this so many times in previous classes. But we see that when Krishna performed the Brahma Bhivamohana Leela, he performed this pastime of bewildering Lord Brahma, and then Lord Brahma came back after 1 year to return all the cowherd boys to Krishna. When he came to return them back, then at that point of time, Lord Brahma came, and then he saw each of the cowherd boys had transformed into the 4-armed forms of Lord Vishnu. They had transformed. And when they had transformed into the 4-armed forms of Lord Vishnu, he could see that Lord Vishnu is looking from side to side at all his devotees, and the edge of his eyes is tinged with a red color. And the Acharya said that reddish color is actually the transcendental mode of passion which inspires the devotees, to perform, to give them ever new desires to perform devotional service. Ever new desires. So, from the intelligence, from the transcendental mode of passion, all these things come about. And when a person completely dedicates and understands, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he wants to go back home, back to Godhead, the Supreme Lord will give that person the intelligence how to come back to him. That is a fact that we can actually experience in our own lives. Initially we may think, there's so many hurdles in our life, how are we going to overcome them? But by simply taking to Krishna consciousness, everything actually completely is taken care of by Krishna. Krishna takes care of everything. That's why Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, if you put everything in God's hand, you will see God's hand in everything. It's a very amazing quote. It's a very realistic thing also. If we put everything in Krishna's hand, we'll see Krishna's hand in everything. Somehow the other, Krishna will give us intelligence to do this, that, and the other thing. So many things we may never thought we could ever do in our life. If the need is there and we want to serve Krishna, Krishna empowers us to do it. Just like that. Just like that. So many things happen. Simply desires that, we can see how Prabhupada started off the movement. Most of Prabhupada's disciples in America were hippies. But how did these hippies become so learned that they can go and argue with this debate with this person like Dr. Kavur, who was some big Nobel Prize award-winning person, and defeat him in a debate? How is it possible? Why? Because of the transcendental intelligence given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If it wasn't for that, it's impossible. We would never be able to do it. And Prabhupada goes on to say, intelligence to counteract the hard struggle for existence is assisted by the senses for acquiring knowledge, and the life energy is maintained by manipulation of the active organs like hands and legs. But on the whole, the struggle for existence is an exertion of the mode of passion. That we can see this, that from the mode of passion, we use, all these other senses come about, and all these other senses come about, and we use these senses to survive in this world. We use the senses. We use the senses to Gyanendriyas. We use these senses to acquire knowledge. And Karmendriyas, we use these senses to perform activities. And all these things are arising from the mode of passion. And because they are there, then a person has to actually engage these senses in the service of Krishna. Sarvopadi vinirmuktam, tatparatvena nirmalam, rishikena rishikesha, sevanam bhakti ruchite. That whatever upadhis we have, sarvopadi vinirmuktam, all of them will become completely nullified, and we'll be able to vinirmuktam, we'll be liberated from all these different, from all these different upadhis, from all these different designations, false designations. How will we be delivered and liberated from all these things? Tat paratvena nirmalam, rishikena rishikesha, sevanam bhakti ruchite. That's why the Supreme Personality of Godhead is called Rishikesha. Rishik means senses, and Isha means the Lord. Rishikesha. He's known as Rishikesha. He's known as the Lord of all the senses. Why? And we engage our senses in the service of Krishna. When we engage our senses in the service of Krishna, then we'll actually be able to be liberated from this cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. But if we do not do so, if we want to use our senses in the matter of sense gratification, then we will suffer in this material world. That is how the material world is designed. It's designed like that the minute we try to break the law of Krishna and try to use everything for sense gratification, immediately we will become entangled. There's so much entanglement, so much entanglement in this material world. People get entangled in so many different things. You do one thing, but this other thing has the other thing, the other thing has the other thing, the other thing has the other thing. And it's a big web of anxiety. Chintama parimeyam cha. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Chintama parimeyam cha. I'm trying to find the verse number. It's probably 16. Yeah, okay. Chintamapari meyam cha pralayantam upashitaha kamopabhoga parama etavadati nishitaha asha pasha shatayar bhata kama krodha parayanaha ihante kama bhogatam anyayenartha sanchayan. They believe that to gratify their senses is a prime necessity of human civilization. Thus, until the end of their life, their anxiety is immeasurable. Bound by a network of hundreds of thousands of desires and absorbed in lust and anger, they secure money by legal means for sense gratification. And then Krishna says in the next verse, Idam adhya maya labdham ibam prapse manoratam idam astidam api me bhavishyati punardhanam aso maya hata shatru hanishye cha paranapi ishwaroham aham bhogi siddhoham bhalavan sukhi adyo bijanavan asmi konyosti sadrisho maya yakshi dashyami modisha itya jnana vimohitaha. That the demoniac person thinks, so much wealth I have acquired do I have today, and I will gain more according to my schemes. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future more and more. He is my enemy, and I have killed him. My other enemies will also be killed. I am the Lord of everything. I am the enjoyer. I am perfect, powerful, and happy. I am the richest man surrounded by aristocratic relatives. There is none so powerful and happy as I am. I shall perform sacrifices. I shall give some charity, and thus I shall rejoice. In this way, such persons are deluded by ignorance. And then, aneka chitta vibhranta, mohojala samavritaha, prasakta kama bhogeshu, patanti narakesu chau. Thus, perplexed by various anxieties and bound by a network of illusions, they become too strongly attached to sense enjoyment and fall down to hell. That this is very important to understand. Moha jala samavritaha. When we too much are absorbed in the mode of passion, we do not use our senses in the service of Krishna, then we are stuck in this moha jala. this network of illusion. And it's completely, and it's like a sticky web, or it's like being stuck in quicksand. The more you move to get out of it, the more you sink in further and further and further and further. And that is the nature of this material world. That's the main nature of this material world. The whole struggle for existence. Prabhupada said, yes, there's a struggle for existence, and the strongest will survive. But Prabhupada would make the point that there's no one who survives. What does that mean? That no one is strong. No one is strong. Why? Because it's the nature of this material world. The nature of this material world is Mamupedya Punarjanma Dukhalayam Ashashvatam. That this material world is a place of misery. It's temporary, and it's full of suffering. This material world is temporary and is full of suffering. And because it is temporary, and because this world is full of suffering, then naturally we cannot expect to survive in the what is the survival of the fittest. No one is fit to survive the grasp of time. No one is. No one is. Therefore, all sense organs, along with the intelligence and life energy, prana, are different products and byproducts of the second mode of nature called passion. This mode of passion, however, is a product of the air element as described before. That we can see, Krishna himself says in the Bhagavad Gita, you can see how the Bhagavatam is the expansion of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. We understand this because we can even see in this verse, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhumi rapo nalo vayu kamano buddhirevacha ahankara iti amme bhinna prakriti rashtada. That, these are Krishna's 8 separated elements. And then we can see over here that from these 8 separated elements, Bhumi rapo nalo vayu, from air, the mode of passion comes about. And from mode of passion, all these other different things come about. All these other different senses, all these other different things come about. So we understand this, and we actually see that's why, one of, Vayu's name is also Mukhya Prana. Mukhya Prana. That's also a name of Madhvacharya also. They used to call him Mukhya Prana. That because he's an incarnation of Vayu. So it's called Mukhya Prana. Why? Because without Vayu, there is no life energy. There is no air without Vayu. Without air, there is no life. We can see people can survive without water. We can see all these things. But all the yogis, what do they sustain on air? Because it's Mukhya Prana. They hold the air. They manipulate the air in different ways to hold their life. But without that, it's impossible. Who else was doing this in the recent past? Surviving only on air? It's actually a simple answer. Who else was, there's a personality, very famous personality, who was only surviving on air. No, just recently. It seems tricky, but it's very simple. Prabhupada did that. For 6 months, I'm reading in Prabhupada, not 6, for a few months, Prabhupada didn't eat or drink anything, and he is simply surviving just like that. Prabhupada was doing that. It's in Prabhupada, I can show you the quote. Prabhupada, yes. Are you sure? I can pull up the quote right now. No. What does it say there? There like 1 or 2, barely anything. Prabhupada was. No, but Prabhupada stopped that for a while. He at least like in October, a couple weeks before he left, he was doing those things. Okay. Is it? Okay. All right. So, it was, anyway, I could try to find it where it says there. But, but Prabhupada also survived on such little. He would just take a little bit of water and he would keep everything together. We can see Maharaj Parikshit, he also did that. So many devotees are actually able to do that. Why? Because they're able to manipulate prana, they're able to manipulate air in such a way that they can keep, because there's this famous thing that, Prabhupada was saying that there's actually a material science by which a person can sustain simply on their bones. And Prabhupada said, I'm doing that right now. I'm sustaining simply on these bones. Because even the devotees who tried to massage him, there was nothing left for them to massage in Srila Prabhupada. There were just his bones. And he said, Hiranyakashipu also, there were only bones left. Prabhupada said Hiranyakashipu knew the science of keeping the life air within his bones. And Prabhupada said he was doing that. And he was refusing to eat for a long time, refusing to drink, refusing to do any of this stuff Prabhupada was doing. And then somehow or the other, The devotees coaxed him, and out of love for them, Prabhupada again started drinking water and he took a little bit prasadam here and there, But Prabhupada was able to survive simply on air. Prabhupada was able to do it. How many of us can do it? How many of us can go for days on end without any food or water? How many of us can go? But Prabhupada knew the science. Why? Because he was able to manipulate air like that. Mukhya prana. He's able to manipulate this air element. And because he was able to manipulate this air element, he was able to keep his, keep his life air within the body. So some of the Kavirajas, some of the Ayurvedic doctors, they came and tested the pulse of Prabhupada. And they said that, it's the amount of pain that this person is undergoing is actually, is you can't conceive how much pain that this person is undergoing, but he's somehow keeping his life air together. Any ordinary person would have died if they were experiencing so much pain. But Prabhupada was able to keep his entire life air within his bones. Prabhupada knew how to do this. Why? He's a pure devotee of Krishna. A pure devotee of Krishna will have all the siddhis. They'll have everything. They will have all the mystic perfections that they need, and they display it when they need to. Display it when they need to. Prabhupada said that, Krishna has left the choice to me. So many devotees were coaxing Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, you please, you please take water. You please do this. You please do that. But Prabhupada said, no, I will not take it. And I'm trying to find it. I made a note of this here. Sorry. And Prabhupada said that actually what was actually keeping alive was the book distribution scores and the enthusiasm of his disciples that actually was actually keeping him alive. Otherwise, there was nothing else which should actually keep Srila Prabhupada. Anyway, I'm not able to find this quote right now. But, Prabhupada said this, that he's able to keep his life air like this. He's able to sustain himself by the pure Shakti coming from the soul. And because he did that, he stayed along for however long he wants. And Prabhupada said this really amazing thing. He said that Krishna has given me the choice whether to continue to live on or whether to die. Krishna personally gave me the choice. And whatever I want to do, I can do. And then, the devotees were surprised. And then Prabhupada sent all the GBC members. He sent all the GBC members, said, all of you go and decide and tell me what you want to do. Do you want me to stay or do you want me to leave? And then all of them had met. And all of them were like, Prabhupada wants to stay, let him stay. Prabhupada, we want Prabhupada to stay. Let Prabhupada stay longer. Let Prabhupada stay longer. And all of them came together. And then one of the senior disciples of Srila Prabhupada went and he was about to say something to Prabhupada and he started crying. And he was not able to, speak to Prabhupada for 1 minute. And after 1 minute, he said, Prabhupada, we really want you to stay. And then Prabhupada, he did like that. And then he yawned and he said, okay, all right, I will stay. And then all the devotees were surprised that just like that, Prabhupada was able to transcend all these things. Prabhupada was able to transcend. And then he said, okay, bring me grape juice, bring me strawberries. And then slowly Prabhupada started to again get back and he started to preach and started to do all these things. But he decided that, I want to teach the lesson to the devotees, how to live and how to die for Krishna. How to live for Krishna and how to die for Krishna. He was able to do, Prabhupada was able to do that. Why? Because he's a pure devotee of Krishna. The pure devotee of Krishna. And because he was able to do that, then we understand this. But we can even see that demons like Hiranyakashipu knew the science of holding their life together with air, within their bones, just by manipulating air. Hiranyakashipu performed so many austerities that his entire body was completely covered up by this mountain of ants. And these ants had eaten all of his body. So much so the only thing left were his bones. The only thing left were his bones. And Hiranyakashipu sustained like that. Why? Because they know, I'm telling you, just by understanding the Vedas, by coming to that mode of goodness and by performing austerities, a living entity can also know how to simply sustain on air. Why? Because from air all these senses come about. So by controlling air, we can control, we can maintain everything else. Just we can maintain our life just like that. So I'll end the class over here. It's a short purport. It's 8:34. So if there's any questions or comments or protests, we can take them now. Yes, Krishna Keshav Prabhu.
As you mentioned in the class regarding the Madhva Sampradaya, they say that Vayu is Mukhya Prana. One of the quotes.
Hari Sarvotama Vayu
Yes, that's what
Jivottama.
I want
Yeah,
to
yeah,
tell.
yeah.
This is the basis on which the whole philosophy. Hari Sarvottama Vayu
Vayu Jivottama.
Jivottama.
Yeah.
This is Vayu is considered as the. Uh, Madhvacharya also writes that among all the demigods, Vayu is the person who has never become impure. Like
Wow.
like all the demigods had problems. Like Agni, we know in the stories of
Mm.
Mahabhagavatam and all. But Vayu never. So
Mm.
Vayu was the most pure.
Wow.
Pavanatas chasmi, as
Yeah.
Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita as well.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right.
Hare Krishna.
Amazing. Anything else? Oh.
Lastly, that while Hiranyakashipu was praying, half of his body was eaten by white termites.
Mm.
Termites, and then the plants, herbs, shrubs, everything has covered his body,
Mm.
and the termite just they made that big thing.
Hill, yeah.
Yeah, and then when Lord Brahma came, just he was looking for, and finally he found it. And while he was praying, just he was precisely, Prabhupada has mentioned, that he was keeping his soul within his rib.
Within his?
Rib, R-I-B.
Ribs,
rib.
ribs. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah. So because half of his body was already eaten.
Gone, yeah.
So that means Prabhupada is indicating that a yogi, by dint of his tapasya, he can keep his soul within any part of his body just until he goes home back to Godhead.
Huh.
Yeah, that means he's saying that just we can pray, just like he says that we are simply eating the prasadam not for our sense gratification. We're eating the prasadam just to keep our body alive for our devotional service.
Mm.
Just we are maintaining. So if one becomes advanced, who goes to advanced stage, he can keep his soul any part of his body before he goes home back to God.
Amazing. Okay. Yes.
So, Prabhu, I had a question of this. You're saying transcendental mode of passion.
Mm.
So I was kind of like a little curious about that because now logically it seems to make sense, but I don't remember reading it, at least in Prabhupada's purports. And in fact, in the third canto, Srila Prabhupada writes that in the material world there are three modes of material qualities: goodness, passion, and ignorance. But in the spiritual world there is no trace of the modes of passion and ignorance. There is only the mode of goodness, which is uncontaminated by any tinge of ignorance or passion. Then a little later in that purport he says, but in the Vaikuntha world, the spiritual sky, only the mode of goodness in its pure form exists.
Right. I'll
And
pull
he
up
says
that.
then the Lord and his devotees reside in the Vaikuntha planets, and they are of the same transcendental quality, namely Shuddha Sattva, the mode of pure goodness. So, so I was kind of like curious because you say transcendental mode of passion.
Transcendental passion. Transcendental passion. Maybe I should not use the word mode. But I actually heard this from,
transcendental passion is something different.
yeah.
But if you say mode,
Mm.
that
Yeah, mode. That's right. That's right. Transcendental passion. Yeah. That's right.
transcendental passion is fine.
Yeah.
There is transcendental anger, there is transcendental lust, that's okay. But
Yeah.
I was kind of curious.
Yeah, transcendental passion. Sorry, I should not say transcendental mode of passion.
Okay, there's a significant difference between the
Definitely.
two.
100%.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? Kalki Prabhu, yes. You can say from there.
One comment and a question.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, you were talking about just like the animals and men, and how that men have more intelligence than animals, and like that, and so they're more powerful in that way. Anyways, growing up, I'm sure it's like a famous kind of like tale in like many societies, but there was like, it's like pretty much story goes that you know, there's like a guy and he like hunts all these different like crazy animals. You know, he's like looking for like, you know, this dangerous animal to hunt. And so the story culminates in like him getting some guy and then hunting some guy in the woods. So
Hunting
anyway,
some what?
hunting some guy in the woods. It's like a
Oh.
famous like, anyways, like story that we had to read growing up as a kid. But, anyways. But the I have a question about what Prabhu was saying about Vayu. So I understand that Vayu is a pure devotee. So is that like true like in every universe, or is that just like a situational thing in this particular universe? Or?
As far as the Madhvas would say, true in every universe. Okay, Madhvas would say that. You know, our Acharya, what exactly they say about Vayu, I'm not sure. But the Madhvas would 100% say
Okay.
that, you know. Yes. They say he's even above Lakshmi, right? Hare Krishna. Yeah. Yeah. It's a little.
So
Yeah.
then is Vayu like a jiva, or is he something like Shiva? Like is it just like one soul?
Jivottama is the topmost Jiva.
So it's just like one's.
He's
like,
a
is that
Nitya Suri.
one
He's a-
person?
Huh?
Is it
It's a
just like
person.
one person?
So one person.
Like how like Arjuna, like in every universe, the same Arjuna, something like
Yeah.
that. Okay.
Jivottama, topmost Jiva. Yes, Rishi Kumar Prabhu.
You're saying that from transcendental passion, the devotee gets unlimited desires to serve the Lord. And I was wondering, at least I thought that's what you said. And I was wondering how we can get more desires to serve the Lord and also more intelligence to serve
You know
the
that. You know. Anyway, that I need to correct myself on that. You know this. You know this. But anyway, transcendental desires. The Lord increases our transcendental desires. It gives us unlimited inspiration by going and serving Him. You know. So by going and by engaging in service, Krishna gives us more inspiration. And he inspires the living entities more and more to actually do it. You know. So that's how it is. You know.
By engaging in service,
by
we get
engaging,
more.
we get more.
Okay.
Yes.
Just like to clarify the point about using mode and not mode. The point is that the mode defines one's desires and characteristics and things like that, and that kind of mode doesn't exist in the spiritual. There's only one mode, and they are all servants of
Pure
Krishna.
goodness. Yeah.
They are servants of Krishna. They are pure devotees. Their desires are in line. They are same with the desires of the Supreme Lord, and from there, you know, depending on the service that they have, you know, they have different qualities, characteristics, pastimes, etc. But it is not like, see, the material world, if somebody is influenced by the mode of passion, there are certain characteristics that they have that comes from the mode of passion. In the spiritual world, everything springs from the pure desire to serve Krishna. That's all. Whether that is anger, whether that is lust, whether that is, you know, the whatever, servitude, friendship, everything. It all comes from that one desire to serve Krishna. Shuddha Sattva. That is the mode of pure goodness where the living entity, Shuddha Sattva. So where the living entity realizes he knows his actual position in relation to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. From there springs everything. So he's not influenced by a particular mode. And so this is it's very important to understand this. It's not an external thing. Oh, so somebody is influenced by transcendental passion and then they develop this. It's not like that. Yeah, you know, so it's very important to understand. That's the difference between modes and transcendental qualities.
Okay, so this is the verse I was thinking. So Chandrika Vishada. Okay, so here it is. So the Vishnu forms by their pure smiling resemble the increasing light of the moon. Sidelong glances of the reddish eyes created and protect the desires of their own devotees, as if by the modes of passion and goodness. Right? So as if. So that's where I got my hang up from. Okay, that's okay. So as maintenance a glance, you can tell.
and it's hard to comprehend how to like understand. It's like there's like analogies given. It seems like that, as if it's like it's kind of like this, but it's completely different at the same time.
Okay, so
Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita throughout,
Right.
like that also. It's like this, but it's not. You know, it's inconceivable at the same time.
this purport you hear says, their smiles resemble the mode of goodness, protecting all the desires of the devotees, and the glancing of their eyes resemble the mode of passion. Actually, in this verse, the word rajaha means not passion but affection. In the material world, rajoguna is passion, but in the spiritual world, it is affection. In the material world, affection is contaminated by rajogun and tamogun, but in Shuddha Sattva, the affection that maintains the devotees is transcendental. So that's his point. And is it the right I stand to be corrected, or what's that called? I stand corrected, is that what it is? That's what it is? Okay. All right. So, anything else? Yes.
So sattva balambi parasattva visuddha sattva. Visuddha sattva is only available in the spiritual world.
Right.
And abrahma bhuvanaloka punaravartina arjuna mamopetitu konteya punarjanma na vidyate. So therefore, once Krishna is saying, once you go home back to Godhead, you'll never return back. That's why he's saying. But all these 33 millions of demigods and demigoddesses, they are subject to birth, death, old age, and disease. Even Brahma, Prabhupada says, even Brahma is subject to death. That's the reason, because that is material world. So therefore, Sattva, Raja, Tama, both are there within this material world, even up to Brahmaloka. Even up to Brahmaloka. But above that is Visuddha Sattva. Over there, like Prabhu was mentioning, once we go to the spiritual world, there is pure goodness. Whether any kind of rasa is there, these 5 or 6 rasas, there, whether Vasalya or Madhurya or whatever, but just that is completely transcendental. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Mataji, have anything? Okay. Yes.
There is a verse in Bhagavatam which states about the Suddha Sattva. There is a verse in Bhagavatam which states that
Sattvam,
Sattvam
Parthivat, Dharnodumas,
Sattvam
Tasmad Agni,
Vishuddham
Vasudeva
Vasudeva
Shabditam.
Sabditam.
Yes.
So if you read Krishna book, Prabhupada writes in the Vasudeva, how Krishna is born to Vasudeva because Vasudeva is in the platform of pure goodness.
Right. Anything else? Okay, Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.